We're all taught to think in straight lines, right? Cause and effect. A leads to B. But what if the really important systems, think finance, technology, even nature, what if they're all driven by something way messier? Today, we're diving headfirst into the engine of uncertainty itself. We're going to map out the architecture of randomness.
So let's get right into it. Think about this. Why does the stock market, with just mountains of data, still feel like a total coin toss sometimes? Or how can a hurricane tracked by literally a dozen satellites just suddenly veer off course? Well, the answer isn't in some simple cause and effect chain. These systems, they play by different rules. They live in a world where the future isn't just one single destination, but a whole landscape of possibilities, all shaped by chance.
And that brings up a huge question, right? If so much is governed by chance, how on earth can we possibly model it with any accuracy? How do you find any kind of certainty, any signal, in all of that noise? Well, that is the exact puzzle we're tackling in this explainer.
Okay, so this requires a big shift in how you think about things. We've got to stop looking at data like it's just a bunch of static dots on a chart. The truth is, data is alive. It's this dynamic process, kind of like a cloud of possibilities that's constantly evolving through time. The real art, the real trick, isn't just collecting more data. It's about finding that clear underlying signal that slices right through all the noise.
And here's the absolute key takeaway. We are throwing out the crystal ball. Seriously, the goal here is not to predict one single exact future. It's about mastering the entire map of what could happen, what we call the probability distribution. It's just like a weather forecast, right? When it says there's a 70% chance of rain, it's not telling you it will rain. It's giving you the odds, mapping out the possibilities so you can make a smart call like, grabbing an umbrella.
All right, so to build that understanding, we need to start with the absolute basics, the fundamental building block of how these random systems tick, how they move from one moment to the next. And that brings us to something called the random walk principle.
Okay, so the formal definition is a stochastic process. It sounds complicated, I know, but it's really just a collection of random variables. Let's break that down. Think about the weather. At any single moment, the temperature is a random variable, right? A stochastic process is simply the story of how that temperature changes over time. Yeah, it's random, but there's a structure to it. It's the whole movie, not just a single snapshot.
There's a classic, kind of funny metaphor for this called the drunkard's walk. Just picture someone taking totally random steps. Left, right, forward, back, who knows? The key thing is, where they go next has nothing to do with where they were an hour ago. Nope. It only depends on where they are standing right this second. And this simple but super powerful idea, it has a name. It's called the Markov property. And this is a huge deal. It's basically the cornerstone of modern probability theory. And its core idea is simple. The process is memoryless. The future doesn't care about the past, as long as you know where you are right now. All that complicated history, it's all baked into your current position. Now, of course, that's a powerful simplification, and a big part of being smart about this stuff is knowing when that assumption doesn't work. Now, if this whole random walk thing is ringing a bell, it absolutely should. If you caught our explainer on MCMC, you'll know this is the exact same logic. MCMC uses this sort of purposeful random walk to explore really complex shape, like finding the area under a curve when you don't even have the formula. It just wanders around, dropping points, and uses the proportion that land under the curve to estimate the area. It's just a brilliant way to map the unknown.
Okay, so we've got the core principle down, the random walk. Now let's get into the toolkit. How do we actually model different kinds of randomness? Because let's be real, not all randomness looks the same. And different problems in the real world, they need different tools.
So we can pretty much split these processes into two big families. On one side, you've got your bursty, or discrete events. Think of things that happen in separate, distinct moments. Pop, pop, pop. And on the other side, you have the continuous, or smooth trends. Values that just flow, always connected to the moment right before.
So for those bursty events, our go-to tool is something called a Poisson process. And for the smooth stuff, we usually lean on a Gaussian process. They're built for completely different jobs. One is all about counting separate independent arrivals. The other is designed to model a smoothly changing function and, just as importantly, our uncertainty about where it's going. Let's take the Poisson process. It's absolutely perfect for modeling things like visitors hitting your website or calls coming into a call center. The big idea here is that each event is independent. One person showing up
doesn't make the next person more or less likely to arrive. You know the average rate of arrivals, but the randomness, the fun part, is figuring out when each individual event is actually going to happen.
Now let's contrast that with a Gaussian process. This is the heavy hitter for things like financial forecasting. A stock price doesn't jump from $1 to 2 to 3, it's continuous. So this model is built on a really intuitive idea. Points that are close together in time are probably more related than points that are way far apart. This makes it perfect for modeling those fluid trends, and this is the crucial part, putting a number on just how uncertain we are about the future.
Okay, so that's the theory, and those are the models. But where does the rubber meet the road? Where does this math actually make a difference? Let's look at some super high-stakes applications where thinking this way is not just useful, it's absolutely critical.
One of the coolest fields for sure is artificial intelligence. Think about advanced AI agents. I'm talking about a robot weaving through a chaotic warehouse, or even an AI character in a complex video game. They are constantly dealing with unpredictable stuff. They can't just follow a fixed script. They have to make smart choices based on probabilities. And when we get specific, a lot of reinforcement learning agents use something called a Markov decision process. This basically takes that memoryless Markov property we talked about earlier and bolts on two new layers. First, actions the agent can actually take, and second, rewards it gets for making good choices. The whole point is for the agent to figure out the best path, the one that gets it the most reward in the long run.
So here's what that logic loop looks like in action. Let's say we have a robot in a maze. First, it looks around and figures out its current state, its position. Step 2, it evaluates all its possible moves, left, right, forward, and it weighs the odds. What's the probability of getting to a new spot, and what's the potential reward? Then, it picks what it thinks is the best option, makes the move, and lands in a new state. And then, it just repeats the whole cycle, over and over, learning the best path one step at a time.
And hey, it's not just AI, not by a long shot. High-frequency trading algorithms, they live and breathe this stuff, navigating insane market volatility by making bets on probabilistic paths. And engineers, they use these exact same ideas to predict the long-term equilibrium of really complex systems, everything from chemical reactions to the flow of traffic on the internet.
All right, let's bring it all home. After all of this, what's the one big idea you should walk away with?
It really just comes down to this. We live in a world that is just flooded with noise, with chaotic data, volatility, unpredictability. And in that world, understanding the math of randomness isn't just some dusty academic exercise. It is, without a doubt, your single strongest signal for making smart decisions.
So think of these processes as the invisible framework, the hidden scaffolding that's holding up so much of modern analytics. From the AI agents in our phones to the financial models that drive entire economies, this is the architecture that lets us make sense of uncertainty.
So the question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you have a new way to think about uncertainty, a new set of tools to model and master it, what problems that seemed impossible before are you going to tackle next?
And hey, if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a comment and let us know where you want to go next. Should we do a deep dive on hidden Markov models? Or maybe tackle the fundamentals of Brownian motion? Let us know. And until then, keep searching for that signal.